Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Founders Grid, sponsored by Gaper.io. Today we have Andrew. Andrew is the founder and CEO of Papa. Andrew, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So, give us a brief background about yourself before you founded Papa, what you've been doing before that.
Yeah, I grew up in South Florida, which is where I am now. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, to follow in my father's footsteps. And, early in my career, I worked at AT&T actually doing consultative sales to large, organizations from a technology and telecom perspective. But in 2011, I ended up joining at the time a very small startup called MD Live, which is a large telehealth company that my father actually started, and worked there for 7 years, saw that company go through some significant hyper growth and really learned a lot until, one day about 3.5 years ago, came up with the concept of Papa to support my grandfather, who was my pop originally, and have since expanded to support other older adults throughout the country.
Wow, interesting. So, early days, what were the early days like? The product market fit, many just hear about it. At Papa, you've actually found it. So, what were the early days like when it came down to looking for product market fit, finding the first staff, the first team members, the first customers, the first investors? Tell us about it more.
Sure. So what happened was I originally came up with the concept to connect older adults, seniors, to college students, nursing students, pre-med, social workers, things like that. That would go through like a very strict and thorough onboarding process, looking for the right personality. All of this was done very manually at first, which has become quite automated. But early in the day, we didn't really have product market fit, of course, and I kind of had this theory that there was product market fit, not about if, but when. And so our first approach was to go after consumers, because figured we'd have to get one person to use Papa before we can go live with a larger organization, which has become our primary focus. And so I literally would call friends, family members. Obviously, my grandfather was our first Papa member. I used it for my other grandparents. Called neighbors. I went on Google and Facebook, and I kind of stalked people effectively in a jokingly way, but was able to get people to decide to join Papa, to test it out. People that needed to go to get their hair done, people that needed to go to the doctor. So transportation was definitely a big initial component, but we quickly realized that loneliness is a disease, and it affects people, beyond just not being able to drive around, in your mood and your behavioral health, and is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, according to some studies. And so it has a huge negative impact on one's health. And with that, loneliness started to be seen as a big issue, not only, as a kind of a pragmatic thing within my own family and others, but, the healthcare system said, hey, this actually is affecting people. People are going to the hospital more, they're getting sicker, they're not taking their medicines, they're not eating properly. And so my whole background at MD Live was selling to insurance companies, and we went after that as an initial approach. And we were very fortunate to be able to get our first foray into that, kind of product market fit through large insurance companies. And actually Humana was our first client, where they offered this as a benefit to their Medicare Advantage beneficiaries. And that's since become our primary focus. And so, for us, it was kind of one foot in front of the other, one step at a time, or the way I think of it is crawl, walk, run.
Got it. Got it. Interesting. So, trying to make it relevant to COVID, unfortunate times because of COVID, it has affected most of the world, while it has acted as a catalyst for some. So, how has the business been for Papa during COVID? And more importantly, how, as a founder, you're able to manage all of the teams via Zoom calls or Google Meets and online virtually. So how's that been so far? What's the learnings out of it?
Yeah, so my whole career I've been working remote, and so for me it's something I'm very used to. Not the same for everyone, and there's definitely nuance to it. Our platform, our technology, and our operation has always been kind of structured as kind of remote capability, at least cloud infrastructure. Everything's accessible through a secure portal or a Pop-up app. So it's something that we were able to do. And then we had to make sure that it was aligned with our culture. And we did it in a way that was very, kind of open, wanting our team to understand different ways to go about it, and that we're here to support them. And we've created different cultural ways to maintain a good culture here at Papa. So doing things like company-wide gym classes or yoga classes or meditation, for example. We've done cooking, group activities. We've done happy hours. We brought in some special guests. We're actually bringing in a magician next week. So we've been able to maintain both, good work effort and also, kind of a strong culture, which is a really critical component. In terms of our service, we've historically offered in-person services. So we're sending younger, well-bodied individuals who, are Papa Pals into the homes of seniors. Obviously, that's taken a big change, at least initially, and how to implement some very serious rules and regulations around how to handle a visit, what to do in terms of ensuring that this person is safe and we're keeping them healthy. Aside from COVID, obviously, in addition to the other services we provide, if someone needs to go to the doctor or needs dialysis, how could we still support that person in this time period? And so we were able to turn on what we call virtual visits or provide assistance from a distance. So much of our activity now is through a virtual encounter. So it'll be a video chat like what we're doing now, or a telephone chat if you're more comfortable with that as an older adult. We may still go grocery shopping. We may still go pick up medicine, but typically we're going to do that without the member and drop it off to their house in a contact-free fashion. So we've definitely had to pivot to a degree, or evolved, as I see it, into both virtual and in-person services, which frankly has always been part of our dream and our mission, and really to support people with companionship across the board, whether that be through a phone call or a video chat or an in-person experience. It's part of our mission, and it's just definitely something that we've done a little bit faster than we expected, and we're proud to be able to help people in this time period.
So last question, Andrew. Young founders, young startup founders who actually started their startup in February, March of this year, what advice would you give to them, as an experienced entrepreneur? What advice would you give to these youngsters that just started out?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's an interesting time to start a business. I think there's a lot of opportunity to develop new innovative ways. I would say that it's the biggest behavior change in healthcare and probably in our lifetime in general, but the adoption of things like telehealth and digital, which has obviously been here forever, but it's more about human behavior. And to see that people that otherwise would have never done a video chat, think about Papa in general, seniors, technically hadn't been that advanced in that category as a general population. To see that movement has been pretty impressive. So the advice I would say is the same advice I would have said before, which is, look for a massive problem that affects a large portion of people and something that you could be really passionate about. And if you could marry out both those things together, I think you have a good shot at being successful, obviously with some grit and some hustle and a little bit of luck. But yeah, I would say don't be scared to start a company in this time period. Obviously, if you started something in February that required something that's negatively impacted by COVID, you may have to pivot, but all startups have to pivot regardless of what time period. Very few come up with their first idea, go right ahead at the exact way they wanted to go about it, and boom, it works. So there's a lot of iterations on the way to a successful business. So keep going and onward and upward.
Got it. Got it. Andrew, thank you so much for being on our show. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, and it was great having you. Thank you so much. And hopefully we'll keep on hearing amazing news from Papa from time to time.
Thank you, Mustafa. I really appreciate the time today.